When a rail line disappears under packed snow, the schedule is already dead. The railroad does not need a pickup truck with a blade on the front. It needs steel, traction, pressure, and a machine ugly enough to force winter off the map. This lineup begins with the quiet machines that stop snow from becoming a disaster, then climbs toward the rotary units called in when the track is already buried. Some push, some sweep, some attack the snow with a spinning steel face. And at the end sits a 42-foot 10-inch rotary snowplow built around one violent purpose: making winter leave the rail. The OSR snowplow does not enter this lineup with theater. It enters with discipline. This is the kind of machine that looks simple until the railroad starts losing control. Snow on a track is not scenery. It is delay, ice, lost traction, buried switches, and a transportation system slowly being choked by weather that refuses to stay soft. The OSR snowplow answers that pressure with a heavy-duty front blade and locomotive force. It does not carry passengers. It does not haul freight. It does not need a polished sales pitch. Its job is colder than that. It stays ahead of accumulation before the snowfall hardens into something more expensive. That is what makes it dangerous in a quieter way. It does not wait for the disaster. It tries to erase the conditions that create one. The blade advances like a moving steel boundary, pushing snow away before the railroad has to call in something louder, heavier, and more brutal. This is not the machine that rescues the line after winter winds. It is the machine that tries to keep winter from reaching that point. Some machines arrive after the storm has already humiliated the schedule. This one exists to prevent that humiliation from becoming official. The Jordan spreader solves the same problem with a different kind of force. It does not attack the snow straight ahead like a battering ram. It spreads its wings. Those adjustable side wings are what give this machine its authority. Instead of waiting for snow to build into a solid blockade, the Jordan spreader pushes it outward, away from the rails, away from the path, away from the narrow strip of steel that the entire railroad depends on. It is pulled by a locomotive, while hydraulic systems control the wings that shove snow to the side. The machine does not need to look dramatic to be dangerous to winter. Its violence is lateral, controlled, repetitive, industrial. That is the difference between a spectacle and a system. A rotary plow gets the glory when the line is buried. A spreader does the less glamorous work before the railroad has to admit it is in trouble. Jordan spreaders became part of the maintenance language of North American railroads, with work reaching beyond snow into ballast and drainage duties. That matters because a machine like this does not survive on beauty. It survives because it keeps solving expensive problems. No mansion interior, no luxury invoice, no speed flex, just wings, steel, hydraulic pressure, and a design philosophy that treats snow buildup like a liability that must be removed before it grows teeth. The OSR snowplow is a front wall. The Jordan spreader is a sideways eviction notice. It does not beg the storm to stop. It rearranges the battlefield until the railroad gets its line back. Then, the scale changes. Not smaller in importance, smaller in ego. The Tsugaru Railway, KI-101, comes from Japan, where heavy snowfall is not an occasional dramatic event. It can become the operating environment itself. In that world, a snow machine does not need to look like a North American rotary giant to earn respect. It needs to show up constantly, move with control, and keep regional lines from being swallowed day after day. This machine is self-propelled. That changes the psychology of it. It is not just a blade waiting for someone else to shove it into the storm. It carries its own movement, its own traction logic, and a compact body shaped for tighter rail conditions. Front plows, auxiliary snow clearing systems, integrated traction, continuous work instead of one cinematic rescue. Its power is not intimidation. Its power is repetition, control, and the refusal to let snow build long enough to matter. The KY-101 does not need to throw snow into the sky like a Las Vegas fountain made of ice. It just needs to keep the track alive long enough for the railroad to keep breathing. That is a different form of dominance. Not every titan has to roar. Some simply arrive every day until the storm loses its leverage. The Soja, Russell keeps the same logic alive, but with a broader mechanical posture. This is not luxury. There is no leather, no marble, no private lounge, no $700,000 ego parked behind a diesel cab. This is winter maintenance, stripped down to function. A self-propelled snow machine using plows and distributed mechanisms to keep snowfall from hardening into control. Its strength is coordination. Instead of one enormous rotary face doing all the violence, the machine relies on multiple clearing surfaces working together. The goal is not just impact, it is control. And on low-grip rails, control is not a polite feature, it is survival. Winter does not only block the route, it changes the rules under the wheels. That is why machines like this matter. They do not exist for the perfect slow-motion shot. They exist because frequent snowfall can turn a rail line into a maintenance debt that never stops collecting interest. The Soja Russell is aggressive enough to matter, but not so theatrical that it becomes bigger than the problem. It represents the middle ground of snow warfare on rails, still purpose-built, still specialized, still too strange to be confused with ordinary rail equipment. The KY-101 shows compact discipline. The Soja Russell adds coordinated force. But prevention has a ceiling. Eventually, winter stops being something you manage and becomes something you have to cut open. Now the blades start spinning. Northern Pacific Rotary Snow Plow. Number 2 belongs to a different age, but not a weaker one. Manufactured in 1887, it represents the moment railroads began treating deep snow not as a delay, but as an enemy that required dedicated machinery. This is not a plow in the ordinary roadside sense. It is a rotary snowplow. Its face is the weapon. A steam-powered mechanical system turns the front wheel, and a locomotive pushes the unit from behind. That detail gives the machine its real character. The rotary unit does not need to be a complete locomotive. Its job is narrower and more violent. It is the cutting face. The pushing power comes from behind. That is not weakness. That is division of labor by brute force. Northern Pacific Number 2 carries historical weight because it is recognized as the oldest surviving rotary snowplow in the world. That is not just museum trivia. That is a piece of industrial doctrine preserved in steel. The idea is more than a century old, and the logic still feels violent today. The year 1887 is enough to make the point. Before modern rail networks became obsessed with efficiency, before winter operations were wrapped in digital planning and clean dashboards, railroads were already building specialized machines to put a spinning steel face into a wall of snow. The Soja Russell managed snow. This machine announces the next phase. Winter is no longer managed, it is attacked. Southern Pacific MW208 adds something more dangerous than age: a rescue shadow. Built in 1927 as a steam-powered rotary plow, then converted to diesel in 1970, MW208 is not just an old machine with a preserved number. It is a reminder that the snow problem did not vanish with newer engines, better schedules, or cleaner paint. The railroad kept needing the same ugly answer: a rotary face, a heavy body, a buried line ahead, winter in front of it. The year 1952 gives MW208 its weight. It was involved in the city of San Francisco train rescue, a moment where winter stopped being scenery and became a railroad emergency. That is the kind of history that separates a machine from a museum object. It was not built to be admired under soft lights. It was built for the kind of weather that makes infrastructure look arrogant. MW208 earns its place through timeline pressure. 1927, 1952, 1970. 3 anchors across decades, all pointing at the same brutal truth. Winter kept coming back. The machine's job stayed relevant because the mountain did not care how modern the railroad thought it had become. Dense snow, hardened layers, blocked lines, and rotary force remained part of the operating reality. Northern Pacific No. 2 gives us the old doctrine. MW208 shows why that doctrine survived. Because the problem kept humiliating anything weaker. Union Pacific's rotary snowplow brings the story back to raw mechanical appetite. No heroic passenger service, no freight revenue, no polished luxury. This is a rotary snowplow concept built around a dedicated front wheel that turns packed snow into airborne debris. Fed forward by the weight and momentum behind it, the machine operates less like a rail car and more like a powered industrial blade aimed straight into winter. Packed snow does not behave like powder. Ice does not step aside because the railroad is busy. In mountainous regions, a blocked line can become more than an inconvenience. It becomes a logistics problem with steel rails buried inside it. The rotary answer is crude in the most expensive way possible. Do not delicately brush the snow aside. Throw it away from the track. That is the authority of a rotary plow. Its entire shape is an argument against compromise. The front exists to open the wall. The rest of the operation exists to feed that front into resistance until the buried root has a chance to breathe again. MW208 gave us survival across decades. Union Pacific gives us the appetite of rotary violence, where the machine does not politely maintain the line. It forces an opening. Denver and Rio Grande. Western Rotary. OY belongs near the top because the environment itself becomes part of the machine. This is mountain snow territory, high-altitude railroading, wind-packed accumulation, routes where the railroad is not simply crossing a landscape, it is negotiating with geography that has no interest in being reasonable. Cumbres Pass rises above 10,000 feet. At that elevation, winter does not need drama to become expensive. Snow gains weight. Wind adds pressure. The rail line becomes a narrow iron vein running through a frozen problem. Rotary OY is severe because of how the force is divided. One machine becomes the spinning blade. The power behind it becomes the ram. Together, they turn a buried mountain route into something the railroad can use again. That is not a failure of design. It is a brutal concentration of force. The rotary unit does not need to be everything. It needs to be the face that takes the hit. The force behind it drives that face into the snow wall. When OY works, the spectacle is not just snow flying. It is infrastructure refusing to surrender a route carved through hostile terrain. The blade does not decorate the scene. It reopens a path where winter tried to close the ledger. The Union Pacific rotary was mechanical appetite. Rotary OY adds altitude, history, and mountain pressure. A machine that can fight a pass because it does not fight alone. The MBTA changes the scale again, not by building one colossal rotary face, but by turning an urban transit system into a snow-fighting machine. That is why it sits this late in the lineup. It is not the cleanest single-machine spectacle. It is system dominance. Boston winter does not threaten one lonely branch line in the mountains. It threatens mobility, schedules, commuters, platforms, switches, and an entire city's tolerance for failure. The MBTA's winter strategy includes plow-equipped trains, specialized snow equipment, and snowblowers powerful enough to look like they belong on an airfield instead of near commuter rail. The system has included jet-powered snowblowers called Snowzilla, capable of generating up to 3,000 pounds of thrust. It has also used a 50-ton locomotive and auger unit, clearing a path nearly 6.5 feet wide. That is not a luxury number. That is urban survival math. The money is not tied to one heroic machine. It is spread across the system, because a city does not survive winter with one blade. More than $100 million has been invested in winter resiliency since 2015. That is what happens when a transit authority realizes winter is not weather. It is an infrastructure opponent. 40 Orange Line trains, 40 Red Line trains, plow-equipped for the season. The machine here is the network. Rotary OY fights a mountain pass with a blade. The MBTA fights a citywide shutdown with layers of equipment, preparation, and money burned in the name of keeping the rails alive. The final machine in this lineup brings the story back to one object. BNSF Rotary. Snowplow 972551 earns the final slot through physical presence and brutal clarity of purpose. It is not a passenger machine. It is not a freight machine. It is not trying to be elegant. It is a rotary snowplow, a rail-bound machine built around the act of removing snow by force. Its listed external dimensions give the body a real footprint. 42 feet, 10 inches long, 10 feet, 8 inches wide, 15 feet, 1 inch high. But the numbers are only the frame. The violence is at the face. A rotary snowplow announces its purpose before it moves. The front is not friendly. It is not aerodynamic. It is not shaped for comfort. It is a mechanical demand pointed down the track, waiting for pressure behind it and winter resistance in front of it. When a rotary plow like this meets packed snow and ice, it is not trying to make a clean little path. It is forcing a buried rail line to reappear. The machine advances into a wall that ordinary equipment cannot politely negotiate with. The rotary front takes the impact. Snow that had turned the track into a white barricade is ripped away from the steel and thrown off the line. That is the entire point of the shape. The length gives it presence. The width gives it stance. The height gives it mass. But the face gives it authority. This is why BNSF 972551 works as the boss of this particular lineup. Not because it needs a fake crown, not because it needs a record title. Because every visual cue points toward violence with a job description. The body, the rail-bound posture, the rotary classification. The front aimed directly at the buried root. When winter turns the track into a rumor under snow, This is the kind of machine the railroad wants at the edge of the white wall. Not fast, not luxurious, not polite. A steel instrument built to make winter leave. These machines are not impressive because they are pretty. They are impressive because ordinary infrastructure has to negotiate with them when winter turns railroads into buried steel. So, choose your side: the rotary brute force that reopens a mountain pass, or the city-scale snow system that keeps an entire urban network breathing while the storm tries to shut it down. Subscribe to MEGAMASS and stay close to the machines too specialized, too heavy, and too dominant to be treated like normal equipment.